Everybody knows the Hemingway story. Key West, mojitos, fishing boats, blah, blah, blah. Cute, but let's be real. The literary world is way bigger than a grumpy old dude in Florida. What about Jose Eustasio Rivera writing about the Amazon in La Vorágine, the vortex? What about Maribel Moreno tearing down patriarchy from the Caribbean coast of Colombia? These are masterpieces too, but nobody puts them on a t shirt at the gift shop. When we talk about Latin American literature, we usually hear about the boom: Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Vargas Llosa, Borges. Love them, obviously. But beneath that shiny surface, there's a whole underground river of voices. Rivera's El Aborágin doesn't just tell a story. It screams about land, ancestry, and what it means to be rooted. Reading him in Huila, Colombia feels like the mountains are talking back, like a woodpecker drumming ancient Morse code into the ceiba trees or sparrows gossiping in the plaza at dusk. And here's the wild part. Rivera died in New York City in 1928, 40 years old, alone, far from the Amazon he wrote into legend. The official story is a heart attack, but people whisper about poison. Imagine that. A man who gave voice to the jungle, to the land, dies in a cold Manhattan hotel. It's like a hummingbird trying to survive in concrete winter. Now, Huila doesn't just have Rivera. Don't even get me started on the women. I discovered a woman called Waldina Davila de Ponce de Leon, and is considered the first woman novelist from that region. Let that sink in. The first Huilense woman to break into the novel, carving space for herself in a world that barely acknowledged women's voices. And that name, Ponce de Leon, hits different when you're standing on this continent. Because in Florida, we've got Juan Ponce de Leon, the conquistador, discoverer of Florida, tied to St. Augustine, the oldest European city in the United States, a colonial figure searching for the fountain of youth. And in Huila, you've got Waldina Davila de Ponce de Leon, not a conquistador, but a writer, the first Huilense woman novelist, in the land that also holds San Agustin. But instead of a colonial fort, it's the heart of ancestral statues, tombs, and wisdom carved in stone. Florida's St. Augustine tells us one story. Huila's San Agustin tells another. Same name, two worlds, colonizer versus creator, conquest versus memory. Maribel Moreno, a total savage with her pen, writing about women's lives in Barranquilla long before it was trendy. Piedad Bonet, her poetry will break your ribs in the softest way. And Alba Lucia Angel, experimental, wild. She deserves to be in the same conversation as Virginia Woolf, but instead, she's barely on the syllabus. Why? Because the patriarchy's syllabus is always incomplete. And today, you've got Diana Carolina Leiva writing, researching, carrying that lineage forward. The continuum is alive, ancestral and modern, rooted and radical. And it's not just Colombia. Gabriela Mistral from Chile, first Latin American woman to win the Nobel Prize, yet people still treat her like the nice teacher poet. No, bro, she was fire. Claribel Alegría in Nicaragua, bridging revolution and lyricism. And contemporary voices like Selva Almada in Argentina, who writes about violence and rural life with a raw edge. These women aren't side notes. They are the story. So here's my challenge for you. Travel like a researcher, not a tourist. Stop doing the Hemingway pilgrimage. Don't just take the same selfies in Key West or Paris. Go to a Bogota library. Sit in a tiny Cartagena bookshop. Ask about Marbel Moreno or Waldina Dávila in Huila. Go to Chile and feel Gabriela Mistral in her landscapes. By digging into these voices, you're resisting the mainstream quote unquote travel influencer narrative and choosing to engage with culture at its roots. Ask your grandma about the storyteller she grew up with. Because traveling isn't just about beaches and food, it's about recovering voices that colonialism and capitalism tried to bury. The sparrows know, the hummingbirds know. Migration is ancestral, just like language. From Florida swamp gators to jaguars in the jungle, it's all connected, baby. This trip for me has been ancestral. I'm not just walking around eating arepas, I'm listening. The land has memory. The books have memory. The people have memory. When a cardinal flashes across the sky, when a hummingbird hovers in impossible stillness, when a heron rises up from the marsh, it's the same continent speaking. Rivera didn't make it back. His story ended in New York, but ours doesn't have to. So if you're fluent AF, I dare you. Travel deeper. Read the underground. Bring these forgotten masterpieces back into the conversation. Hemmingway had his time. It's our turn now. Thanks for listening, y'all. Stay fluent AF. Peace.